Welkom bij Topnames, een speciale aflevering in het kader van Nederlands Festival voor de International Tech Scene. We zijn te gast in pension Homeland, een restaurant, een hotel en een brouwerij. Waar ik een lekkere pale ale van drink.
Nou, ze hebben goed bier.
Ja,
ze maken hier uitstekend bier. Een net begonnen brouwerij, hier op het marineterrein. Niet zoveel mensen kennen het nog, het is net open. Zeker een aanrader.
Ja, absoluut. Te gast is Aaron Hillegass. Aaron, you're from the Big Nerd Ranch. Of course, I now understand why you're here at the Netherlands Festival.
Of course, if you're a nerd, you have to come.
you have to come. But tell us, what do you do at this Big Nerd Ranch?
So I was at Next Computer with Steve Jobs when we were bought by Apple Computer. So
Really?
a lot of the technologies that I worked with 20 years ago are now part of the iPhone.
Okay.
So I started a company to do professional services for Apple technologies, and then we've expanded into doing Android and web technologies as well. And we really do two things. One is we develop applications and websites for companies, and then we also train companies, and we write books about that are based on our training courses.
Yeah.
So that's how most people know us, is for our books.
Yeah. And what do you do yourself most of the time? Is it which part of your company are you active
So
with?
I'm the CEO of the company, and there's about 70 employees. And when you get to a certain point,
So
you
it's
end up
managing all the time.
Managing is a big part of what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to figure out what's the next big thing. What are our clients going to be looking to code, and what are they going to be looking to be trained on? And so that's a very exciting part of my job.
What is the next big thing?
Well, we're doing a lot right now with conversational interfaces. So if you know the Amazon Echo, that you can talk to it and it creates a conversation. And it's nice because you don't have to spend all your time with your face down in the screen, but rather it can just be in the background. And when you need to know, what's the weather? You just say, Alexa, what's the weather? And it responds. And I think that's going to be an important part, especially when you're driving, having an interface that you can talk to instead of look at.
Yeah, I mean there's big developments in that area, chatbots. I mean, we were all looking at China, where WeChat became the main platform, the main interface to a lot of services.
So messaging is also big. So Apple has just made a new SDK for their Messages app, so I'll be able to extend that to do new things. And so we're all very excited to see what happens with these extendable messaging systems as well.
So you think really that the main developments at the moment are in the interfacing between technology and the people
and people.
And humans?
So on the client, that's a big part, is making the interfaces more and more intuitive and less intrusive. And then on the server side, there's a lot about machine learning, where the machines are going to keep track of you and what you do and your preferences. So the Nest is sort of the first thing that is in people's houses, where it's learning your tolerance for different temperatures, and it's trying to save electricity, know when you're not in the house typically and when you are, and adjust the temperature. And it's a very exciting way for things to get better, is for them to learn from us.
Is it an exciting time for you?
Oh, it's so exciting. I mean, there's so many exciting things are happening in the world, and people are willing to pay for the difference. They're willing to say, this makes my life a little bit better, and I'm willing to pay for that. And so, as someone in the industry, that's the combination, is there's exciting things happening, and there's somebody who's willing to write checks to make it happen.
Yeah. And you could say, for your company, say change is the constant factor, because what you say is we like to see what are the new trends or new technologies, whatever it is. We try to learn them, understand them, etc., and then help people use them.
That's exactly right. So there's big companies, and they change very slowly, whereas a little company like mine, it changes very rapidly, and so it's an advantage to us to be in a landscape that's always changing.
Yeah, but then at the same time, I mean, if I look at and you also told us, you worked with Next, with Steve Jobs, you worked for Apple, and now you're just, I'm saying just helping others to use technology. I mean,
right.
You're not, you don't have that focus anymore on developing new things
I hear what
and
you're
being
saying.
in the forefront of development.
Well, I'm one of those, Big Nerd Ranch is one of those companies that changes the future, but we do it in a very subtle way, and then we sneak out the back door. So I think we're still part of creating the future, it just doesn't go out with my name on it. And that's okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're involved in it, but...
We're involved in it, but I'm not famous for it.
Okay.
Except for the books. People think the books are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody who writes apps, they probably read one of our books. So we have the standard book on iOS development and the standard book on Android development.
Yeah.
And then we just shipped a new book on JavaScript, and it's about writing applications that run in your web browser but feel like native applications.
Yeah.
What was your talk about? Because you had a talk just before this show.
So I was invited over and I came up with I did a talk on computer vision. And there's really interesting things happening there as well. The graphics processors, the gamers have been for 20 years paying to make these graphic processors go faster and faster. And then they want to play the games on the cell phones, so now they're making them more and more efficient. But it turns out that these machine learning frameworks use these graphics processors to do big matrix calculations very quickly and very efficiently, and that makes machine learning possible. So Google just open sourced their TensorFlow framework, and now anyone can do machine learning in an accelerated way on these graphics processors. It's very exciting.
Okay, but that's typical nerdy talk. But give us an example, and anybody can understand what this will lead to. Or what you heard today that people are actually doing on this framework.
So you can program a computer where you make up a set of rules. If the person does this, then react in this way.
Yeah.
Or you could use machine learning where the computer is looking at what's happening and is learning from it, and you don't have to program it. And so the first place that this is being used is to market things to you. So Google is keeping track of what you do and who you're like and what they like and what ads they click on, and they're trying to figure out if you're going to click on the same ad. So they're feeding you ads. So that's the first use, is sort of against you, is to do machine learning. But when we talk about the Nest, once again, that's a device that's learning to make your life better so that your house is more comfortable, but it uses less electricity. Another thing is the self-driving cars. That involves the machines learning to look at the scenery around them and react to what's going on. So that'll be an exciting part of machine learning as well. There's a whole lot of jobs in the world that are awful. They're dangerous, they're dirty, they're dull, the 3Ds. And the machine learning is what's going to enable us to eliminate these jobs so that things like deboning chicken, right? That's somebody's full-time job. We should be able to liberate that person and let them do something. But I love having boneless chicken breasts. So machine learning will learn to separate the meat from the bone for us.
Yeah. Of course, we can talk about then what happens when that person doesn't have that dirty job, but we can talk about.
Well, let's hope that we can find something good for them to do.
Because I was thinking with what you were just saying, the guys who used to develop Siri for Apple and now have a new sort of service,
right?
And there's a lot of. It's a sort of combination of a lot of things you mentioned before this. So it's
definitely the Siri, Cortana, the Google Home. These are all using this machine learning as they can to get smarter as it evolves to have more and more users. Yeah.
Yeah, and in a lot of the interviews we had today were, of course, what just happened a lot is that digitization leads to democratization of a lot of stuff. You now say if you got machine learning, so you need less technological skills.
Right.
I need them to do my stuff. So is that a next phase as well? So that the technology comes in my hands as a non-programmer?
Right, so everybody is always looking for that day when they don't need programmers to write programs.
Yeah.
And I don't think that day is upon us. There's still a lot to creating these models that then learn. And it involves both computers and it involves a lot of math, actually. So in my talk, I actually did some calculus. When I was in graduate school, I used to teach vector calculus, and I explained how these systems learn using calculus. And so there's math and there's computer science, and there will always be need for those things. The hope is that technology will become less and less intrusive. So there'll be just as many people working behind the scenes, but it will be making technology that adapts to you instead of you adapting to the technology.
You said most people, a lot of people developing apps, for example, and all platforms will have will know our name, our products. And you said, well, so we make books, but I assume that you have do you have online? Are you an online university as well?
We don't have any online courses.
No, it's strange.
It's very strange in this time. But we believe that the books are a nice, self-paced, inexpensive, convenient experience. And if you want the top notch, you come to our camp. So we have camps, and you can come to our camp, and you have an instructor in the classroom. And that physical coming together of a student and a teacher, we still think is really valuable because it lets you ask questions, it lets you experiment in a space that's safe, and someone can say, you know what, that's not interesting. Maybe you should try this other variation and make it useful. I think there's still a place in the world for good teachers.
Yeah, you're a true technology optimist, if I listen to you.
Yeah, I think technology is getting better and better, and I still think that there's a place for teachers.
And the world is getting better because of technology.
Yeah.
Are there any disadvantages in what is happening in the fast?
So you were talking about the democratization of technology. So always the big corporations are the first ones to get it, and they use it against us. So they try and break into our privacy and guess what we're going to do and try to sell us things and breed discontent. But then eventually those same technologies become democratized and people can claim them for themselves. And so I think that's a very natural progression of things. Usually when there's a technology problem, the answer is not less technology, it's actually more technology.
Yeah, but is that the way, serious problems like privacy issues are going to be solved? I mean, I think there's a big difference here between the way the United States is approaching this problem and Europe. I mean,
certainly
Europe is, giving Google hard times, and while in America they can do whatever they want.
Right.
I mean, how do you look at the way? Let me say, I think, and a lot of Europeans think that the big companies, they created a monopoly.
Yeah.
And they're the winners, and nobody's going to stop them.
Right.
How do you look at that? I mean, is any regulation needed, or?
Oh, I certainly think some regulation is needed, both of the governments and of the big corporations, about what sort of data they gather and what they keep, for sure. And I think all Americans who think about it agree with that as well. Most Americans don't think about it.
Really?
I don't think they do. I think that they're thankful for the convenience, and they're willing to give up their privacy. They don't consider their privacy worth very much.
Okay.
You have to remember our histories are a little bit different. You know, World War II was fought here, and the Nazis were here, and it was a very different experience in the United States. And I think that's a natural result of our histories, that you all think more about your privacy than we do.
Yeah. But then back to the technology optimism. I mean, you're more or less saying that technology is going to solve all the problems it creates.
That's probably more than I should say. But I did say that usually the answer of technology is more technology. I think that it's important that we remove ourselves from technology sometimes because our brains are very easily distracted. And so I worry about my children. When I grew up, there was lots of boredom, and I think boredom has a purpose. It makes you say, well, I can read this hard book because I don't have anything better to do. Whereas my kids who are already on Instagram, they have no time to be bored. And so I don't think they sink their teeth into some of those same big problems. But
how old are they?
They're 11 and 14. And so my 14-year-old has joined the robotics team, and he is building and programming robots in his high school, which is very neat.
Nice.
And my 11-year-old, though, loves video games, and we have to be very careful about how much screen time does he have, because we don't want him to become only comfortable in that situation where he's playing video games. Yeah, it's a hard question, and I don't have great answers. I'm sorry.
No, nobody has, I think. But
I think I think learning to program is an important part of it. I think that learning to program makes you feel like you understand the technology and you're the master of it. That I can make that computer in front of you do anything it can do is very empowering, and it helps your understanding of the world. And I worry that not enough children learn to program.
Your children, do they learn it at school, or do they learn it because you write all those books?
I make them learn it. So in our household, the rule was you couldn't get a Minecraft account until you knew how to program. Yes, and all their friends had Minecraft accounts, and they were not allowed to have one until they could show me that they could program. So they each wrote a little video game or something, and they showed it to me. I was like, all right, now you get your Minecraft account. So it's about setting limits with children.
Yeah, but
and
at
for
school,
me too.
Which role does it at the moment? Say does it play?
At the school, the robot team is extracurricular. So there is a programming class, but honestly, we don't do a very good job of teaching our children in general about computer programming in the United States. I think we could have a much stronger computer science program nationwide.
Because very often over here, when we speak to, say our guests, for example, and the younger ones of those, they say at school you get your teacher is someone who has knowledge of 10 years ago.
Right.
So and they find it all themselves, and I understand
Utterly
the problem as
boring.
well,
Yeah.
because of course the developments are going really rapidly, etc. So
Now, when I was a kid, when I learned to program when I was 10, which is 1980, there was the Apple II.
yeah.
And when it showed up, there was no software with it. All you had was a basic interpreter. And so when it showed up at school, the only thing you could do with it is program. And now a computer shows up and it has PowerPoint and a spreadsheet program and a word processor. It all starts working right out of the box. So why the kids ask, why should I learn to program?
Yeah.
Once again, they have all the things, all the tools to distract them from the problem.
Yeah.
How long are you staying in Amsterdam?
I'm staying until Saturday.
Okay, what
and
are
then
you
I'm-
going to do?
Well, I have already gone to the Modern Art Museum down on the museum plan, which was astoundingly beautiful. I rented a bicycle and I rode all over town, so I went down to the central station. And tomorrow I'm going to go out to the north on the
NDSM?
NDSM.
That's nice.
I love that.
The longest
North.
pond, the longest boat.
And I like the artists who are there inside the old boat factory. And then
Yeah.
I'll go out to the cafe. It's Black.
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 Double
I'll
K.
go-
Double
Yeah.
K.
And the cafe there, and that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then you have got the right advisors to.
I've been here before, and I think this
Okay.
is just a lovely city.
Yeah.
It's a great treat to be here, and it's so easy to get here with Schiphol Airport and the train that comes right to the central station.
Hey, you said, of course, what you do is make books, camps, etc. Help people. Do you make books for the youth as well?
Our books can be used by youth.
Yeah,
So
is that's the way it's written?
that's the way it's written. So we have a book on Objective-C, which is not the most popular language now, but it has a tricycle on the cover to inspire you to the feeling that it's going to be easy. And it is one of the best introductory programming books I've ever read. Of course, I wrote it, so I'm biased, but it has a really good introduction to ideas like pointers and the heap and the stack, which programmers use every day, but are very foreign the first time you bump into them.
Yeah. And what's the name again?
Yeah,
of the
maybe you can show it,
It's
Martinez.
called Objective-C.
Yeah, I'll show it on the... If you can find it on the...
Objective-C Programming, the
I
Big
don't
Nerd
see
Ranch
it.
Guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one? huh?
Yes.
Okay.
The language
awesome.
that we do development on iOS and Mac now is a lot of people are moving to Swift. This is
the
an
new,
older language.
Yes, that's new.
But what's nice about an older language is that you have a good feeling for the machine. So you think about how the CPU works and the memory works. And so this is a very approachable way to get started with computers.
Yeah, but you have books on Swift as well.
And we have books on Swift as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was that's what Apple open sourced it, I think. is
That's
the-
right. They have open source. So soon you'll be able to do Swift on, or you can now on Linux and any platform you want,
Yeah.
which is very neat.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for letting me be on your show.
Yeah.
You all are a delight.
Yeah, but before you go, we're actually the guests here of the Homeland Brewery,
Yeah.
and they just started and they brew some really nice beers.
Oh,
I mean, take it to your hotel.
I will.
And if you wake up in the middle of the night because of your jet lag, finish this
finish
beer,
this off and then I'll be able to
and
sleep.
you'll be able to sleep again.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to have.
Jullie bedankt voor het kijken, maar we moeten ook nog eventjes Triggy bedanken. Triggy heeft ervoor gezorgd, mede voor gezorgd dat wij hier ook aanwezig konden zijn. I am Triggy op Twitter. En nou ja, ik zou zeggen, google er even op en je vindt de website natuurlijk van Triggy. We hadden met een interview met Arjen Noorbergen aan het begin van deze sessie van 5 interviews. Die kun je vanaf morgen ongetwijfeld terugvinden op onze YouTube kanaal Fast Moving Targets. youtube.com/fastmovingtargets. En later ook op fastmovingtargets.nl. Stekel, zijn we een hoop wijzer geworden vandaag, hè?
Ja, hartstikke leuk.
Ja, dat is super. Dus
Ja.
Nerderlands, de eerste editie, georganiseerd door Amsterdam en Startup Amsterdam. En ik neem aan dat er nog veel edities gaan volgen en hopelijk zijn wij dan ook weer van de partij. Dankjewel.
Dag.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was great fun.
Ja, thanks a lot.